I've been very public that I would oppose a two-term limit on an executive, regardless of who the executive is, because it is very difficult to, first of all, put together a team in your first term. It's easily 1 to 2 years before people are all hired, and then actually get to know their departments. It's not like you walk into a department and everything is running perfectly the way you want it to, and you just sit back and watch it whir away. You actually have to make executive decisions. You have to know who your personnel are. You have to know what the department's objectives are. And it was true with Ike, and it was true with me that it took almost a year to fill every slot, and that you continue to have your managers then learn when they as they become officially acting. Then toward the end of that first term, if everybody knows you're not going to have a second term, if you get a vacancy and you have to fill the vacancy, it's extraordinarily difficult to get people to agree to sign on for an appointed office that's appointed by the executive if they don't know they're going to have a longer run than just 4 years. A lot of people don't like to change their positions every 4 years and would prefer to be in a stable environment. And taking that environment away and saying, well, within 4 years, you're going to be having to replace this person with another candidate by another executive just makes it harder to attract people when you need them. And I think that probably the worst thing is it turns the executive into a lame duck. And as a lame duck, you wind up with many council members and others who are going to be jockeying for running in the next election. And I can tell you firsthand experience that um, turning everything into a political show is not the best thing for legislative processes. When everybody's focused on how do I advance myself, usually at somebody else's expense, it's a little bit more difficult to get things done. So, in a non-personal way, those are the things that I think would be concerning and should concern anybody who's, thinking about voting for it, whether you like me or don't like me. I will point out that I'd be up for election in 2 years, which is the term limit that's supposed to be out there. And if in 2 years I wasn't, and people didn't want to vote for me, they wouldn't vote for me. And you have to go through two processes. You have to go through a Democratic primary, and you have to then go through the general election. I can say for sure, because I heard people canvassing for signatures, that during the canvass, they were talking very much about me. They weren't talking about the benefits of term limits. They were very pointed that they don't agree with a lot of my policies. And this was an opportunity to get rid of me, and not have me stand for another election. They don't want me to stand for another election because they know full well they're not going to beat me in another election. And they managed to get funding from a group of developers, another shock, I'm sure, to many people. And this is another group that has spent millions of dollars, literally millions and millions of dollars, over the past two elections, 4 years apart, and weren't able to beat me. And now this is the simplest thing for them, is try to convince people that they should vote for term limits, then they don't have to worry about actually running an election against me. They also didn't tell people there are already term limits. They basically approached people and saying, we support term limits. We hope you support term limits too. We'd like you to sign this petition. They didn't tell people that the current executive has a limit of 3 terms, and that the council has a limit of 3 terms. Some people were smart enough and knew that and kind of rejected the petition, but a lot of people don't know that we have term limits. We don't talk about term limits, haven't talked about them since the referendum passed years ago. So they were far from honest in what they were doing, and this has nothing to do with better government. It's just their strategy to avoid an election in 2 years where they don't think their chances are too high on winning. If they were confident that I would get beaten, then you'd beat me in the election, because doing this now doesn't remove me any sooner than I'd be removed if I lost an election in 2 years. So yeah, this is pretty personal for them, and it is what it is. It's politics, but it's not good government. You all shouldn't be confused about that.